and catch up. Alrighty, I think we are good to go on all our different platforms. So, hey, my name is Dan, otherwise known as Men Need to Be Heard. I go live every Wednesday from 4 to 5:30 p.m. on TikTok and YouTube, and from 4 to 5 on Instagram, because they only let me go an hour. So I have a couple different cameras going, so that's why you'll see me looking around. And today's a big day. I wanted you all to kind of help me say happy birthday to my co-host today. She's all screwed up because she's like, what's going on? This is Molly. She's not going to look at the camera now. There you go. Say, everybody say happy birthday to Molly. She's camera shy. I'm trying to turn. There she is. So Molly is 7 years old today. It's her birthday. She's like, put me down, Dad. Oh, you got a couple happy birthdays already. See, there she is. She's my little love. I call her my love bug. She's my shadow. When you see me going live or doing videos, she is down under my feet all the time. But I thought it'd be fun to kind of let y'all see her. Sometimes you'll see her on the bed behind me, because that is her bed, and she tears it apart. And she's like, will you put me down, dude? It's hot up here. Where I am in southeast North Carolina, it's 80 degrees today. It's an absolutely beautiful day. She just is not going to look at the camera. Here you go, girl. Come in. Say hi. Say hi to everybody. They're all saying happy birthday to you. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and set her down. We'll put her on the bed for now because that's where she likes to be. You'll probably see you tear her apart. So anyway, for those of you just first time following me or seeing what this is about, my name is Dan, otherwise known as Men Need to Be Heard. As I said, I am live every Wednesday from 4 to 5:30. She's tearing the bed apart behind me now. It's her birthday. I have to let her do it, right? And so I talk about men's issues, men's and boys' issues, from everything that they go through, from educational issues to going through divorce, family court, all that stuff. So sometimes on these lives I have a specific topic to talk about. Today, I'm leaving it open to you guys. I'm going to let you decide what we're talking about today. So one of the things I like to do is about once a month I do an open live chat. You can ask me questions if you want. It could be related to me. It could be related to a particular topic that I cover or talk about. Let's just chat. So a couple other things I'd like to do though is if you're joining in, introduce yourself. Stop in, say hi, say happy birthday to Molly. She kind of disappeared behind me. I'll bring her back on a little bit. And let me know where you're from, because as some of you might have already seen in the comments, it's one of the things I do ask is that you let me know where you're from, simply because I love it. I talk about it every single week. One of the benefits of the internet is that we can, from all across this globe that floats around in the universe, we can chit chat with each other, get to know one another. There's a lot of bad with the internet. We all know that. But a lot of good. So, and I will go through the comments shortly. I'm just kind of saying hi, although I just saw someone, Adam Zuamesk from Krakow in Poland. I dated a girl from Krakow in Poland. Never got to go there. This was many, many, many years ago. Her name was Katarzyna. I have very fond memories of her. She was a wonderful woman. Just didn't work out between us. I will never say anything negative about her. She was awesome. A lot of fun, but she wanted to live life, I guess is the way I'll put it. And last I checked, because I still keep in contact with her once in a while, she's just rocking it, and she's a wonderful woman, and taught me a lot about Poland. She was able to teach me a lot about Poland, taught me some Polish, all of which I have forgotten. Still fairly fluent in French and German. However, Polish, gone. So anyway, jump in. It's your conversation today. So what do you want to talk about? I have nothing in particular. Just kind of talk about my week a little bit. I have been backing off a little bit on the social media. Couple reasons. One is I've just been flat out busy as hell. The podcast is starting to take off, which is exciting to see. A couple of weeks ago, I talked about this last week, I had Warren Farrell on, who is one of my gets, as I call it. Warren is, in my opinion, the men's rights activist. Although he would tell you he's a feminist as well, and he absolutely is. He's someone I look up to, have looked up to for years. I've read every book he's ever written, most of them multiple times. I've got a couple other big names coming on in the near future, and I've got to settle things down for me, and then set up dates that I can record with them. Some big names though. No, not that one big name everybody keeps asking me about, the guy that lives in Toronto, Canada. I'm much too small for him. I have reached out to him, however. Or more precisely, I reached out to his people. I don't have people. Sorry, I'm sticking. It's 80 degrees here in North Carolina where I am now, and it is muggy, and I keep sticking to my chair. So the person I'm talking about is Jordan Peterson, for those that don't know. I had my people, that would be me, reach out to his people. No idea who they are. I actually haven't heard back. I'm not surprised, and I certainly don't fault him in any way. He's got bigger fish to fry than little old me, but hey, you never know. Doesn't hurt to ask. I also have some shows coming up on some really important topics. Domestic violence is one I talk about often. Get some guests coming on to talk about that a little bit more. I'm really going to be starting to talk a little bit about parental alienation more, and to talk about, not so much from the legal perspective, although my show this week, we are getting into the legal perspective, more so from custodial interference. My guest is Claudia, who runs Heroes for Children's Rights. She's a Marine veteran, and she's got some legal options and got a new state law passed in Texas to give parents, notice I didn't say men or women, I said parents, better rights to make sure that they can stay active in their child's life post-divorce. Phenomenal conversation. We recorded it the other day. I actually just finished editing before I came live with you guys. And she's an amazing woman. She absolutely is an amazing woman. She went through a tough divorce. Wasn't able to see her kids for a while. And as I said, she's an ex-Marine. So she talks about that. She talks about her legislative efforts and the work of her organization. But I'm going to be delving a bit more into the custodial interference and parental alienation stuff, because the reality is it's a much bigger problem than many realize. I've talked about it myself before. I am a child of a divorce that had a mother that did everything she could to destroy my relationship with my father. And then I also lived through it as a divorced father. So I will never say I'm an expert on the matter, but I think I kind of know what I'm talking about, right? So, and I've done a ton of research. Considering writing on it a bit. I am working on some books. I released last week, let me pop it up real quick, Unveiling the Forgotten Sufferers, about male victims of domestic violence. Those of you on Instagram aren't seeing it because, well, Instagram I have to use my phone for, not the computer. But I released that. If you are interested in finding out more about the book, it is in my bio in the link tree. There's a link to it at the very top. You can go check it out. And hey, if you think it's worthwhile, purchase it. But anyway, got a couple other books I'm working on. In fact, I was talking with my co-author on one, Lindsay, who I think is going to jump on here at some point, if she hasn't already, about false allegations, another hot topic right now. A lot of things going on with false allegations. We're going to be doing a book on that and sharing some stories, hopefully educating on people on what it is, how drastic an effect it has on the people that are the victims of it, and so forth. So a lot of good stuff coming up. I'm excited. It's hard to believe as I'm sitting here, those of you in the States, Thanksgiving is 2 weeks from tomorrow. I cannot believe it. This year has flown by for me. Absolutely flown by. I've had a lot of changes in my life. Biggest one is I sold my gym that I'd had for many years. Not fully retired. I still train. I've got my powerlifting group. I've got my my girls, as I call them, who are, I train every day in my group training classes, and I've got several individuals I train. Um, Still doing that, but I no longer have the gym, which has freed me up to be able to do this more. So I'm expanding on that. And 2024, I'm start. I'm one of those ones that I like to have a plan. I have OCD. I freely admit it. Um, it's a good thing and a bad thing. Um, 95% good, 5% bad, I say. Um, but I'm starting to put together my plan for next year and what I want to do in life, but also with this. I really want to expand things. Um, as I said, keep growing the podcast, keep doing these lives. I'd like to eventually add another live in because I just enjoy the hell out of the lives. I think I have more fun doing the lives than anything else, just because I get to interact with you guys. So, speaking of which, let's kind of dive into some of the comments. You know what? I'm going to start with my TikTokers. So, I am live on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram all at once. And the way I do it is I have my computer for TikTok and YouTube, and I use my phone for Instagram. That's why I look around a lot. And I also blink a lot. I know somebody's going to mention that because I have the studio lights all on. And, frankly, I I get blinded by them. I do have an eye condition which causes it. So you'll see me blink a lot. And those that don't like me love to point things like that out. And I just laugh and laugh about it all. So anyway, let me scroll back on some of the comments. Let's start with the TikTokers and see what you're going. It is Molly's birthday. Feel free to say hi. She took off on me. Where is she now? Oh, she's in her bed underneath. She's my little shit, as I call her. She is attached to me. Anyway, so let's look at it. So Jordan said, great content. Thank you, my friend. Thanks for your time at work. You know what? I'm just going to do a blanket thank you to everyone for the kind comments. Shaggy said, nice to see you live. Shaggy, you need to come see me every week. I am live from 4 to 5:30 Eastern on YouTube and TikTok, Instagram 4 to 5. Hey, if anybody on Instagram knows, is there a way to get longer time? Because I hate the fact that you guys get cut off on me. Hate it. Because last week, actually, after you guys got disconnected, we had a really good conversation on some things. So, oh boy, we got ourselves oh boy. So, China Max, a law needs to be passed that all males age 14 to 85 years of age required to be vasectomized. Tell you what, I'll agree to that if you agree that all women should be forced to have tubules, because those are reversible too. No reason not to do it. It's funny how they never want to have that one go through. So yeah, we've got ourselves a little troll over on the TikTok side. It's all good. I'm going to ignore it from here on out. Because they're just looking for attention. So anyway, it's amazing. There's a whole bunch of comments. I like this one. Farmer said, learning to focus on myself and not a relationship. Working on myself is much rewarding. Love that comment. So it's funny you said that. The reason is a little while ago, I do a weekly, I have my subscribers on the various things, YouTube and TikTok and Instagram, and I also have my Patreon, and I'm not shilling for these right now, where I call it the Brotherhood of Men for all of that, and I do weekly at least one video for those groups. And it's funny, I was talking about focusing on themselves, the brothers that I have in there, a couple weeks ago about that, and I actually got an email just yesterday from one of them who had just seen it. It was, like I said, it was probably maybe even been 3 weeks ago that I did it. And he said, I never really thought about it. Because what I had talked about in the video was by focusing on yourself, you're helping those around you. For example, as a dad, if you focus on yourself, you're better able to be a better dad, right? That kind of thing. And he really took it to heart, and it made me feel good because when I do those and when I do the videos for you guys, right, my goal is to help people. It's to educate them, primarily guys, to be honest with you, that need to be heard, right? But it really made me feel good because by focusing on himself. And he gave me a couple examples, and I don't want to give the details on it because that's private, and he hasn't told me I could, so and I won't do that. But basically, he made some big changes in the last couple of weeks, and he's already seen the benefits from it, and that's phenomenal, right? That's really why I do what I do. So, and then who's New York right behind Hesni? I am horrible with names. I apologize if I butcher your names. Learned a lot from your channel. Thank you. Um, Rockin' Jules. By the way, I love your comments you put on some of my videos. Laws need to be passed. People who falsely accuse should face prison time. Yes, they should. I completely agree. Interesting thing. We're starting to see some movement along those lines. When you're talking about false allegations, right? So more so, I think in the UK than the US, and I can't speak to other parts of the world because I honestly don't know. I've seen a flurry in the UK because it's been found out that I don't know the particulars on it. I was talking with someone, he was filling me in, but basically something like 1/3 of the cases where men went to jail for different crimes, let's just leave it at that, were found to be not valid. So there's an issue going on with that. If somebody from the UK wants to jump in and give more information, because I had a conversation where, in fact, I'm going to circle back with him because I want to have him on the podcast to talk about it. But the fact of the matter is, there's a lot of false allegations that happen, and it's starting to become more well known. I think Johnny Depp situation had a lot to do with it. I think the Russell Brand situation, which is not resolved, has had a lot to do with it. You notice that thing has completely fallen off the radar. I talked about it last week too. I went looking this week to see if there were any updates on it, right? He's doing his stuff, and I'm not defending him, and I'm not supporting him. I am completely neutral on it right now. We don't know if anything happened, what may have happened. Everybody's got opinions. I'm in the middle on it, right? If he is guilty of what they say, I'll be the first to slam him. But until he's proven guilty, and I mean proven guilty, he gets the benefit of the doubt from me. I firmly believe that you are innocent until proven guilty in any matter, but especially that. Fallen off the radar, which tells me that the investigation is not going the way people thought it was going to go. Time will tell on that. So, but yeah, it's interesting to see. I think laws are going to be passed. In my other life, as I say, I do a radio show which is political. I'm the voice of reason, as I like to say. I'm the center person, the libertarian. And it's funny because we have politicians on occasionally, and I was talking with one that we're trying to set up as a guest, and I mentioned that and said, what is your opinion on false allegations? And his response is, what was that? What's that? Yeah, really, they don't even have a clue, the politicians. So I educated him a little bit, and he's like, well, we need to talk some more. So I think as we talk about it more, I've never been the victim of a false allegation. I've had people threaten to make them, specifically online. In fact, I had one the other day who was threatened to make one. Not your brightest move there, person that did it, because I immediately took it to heart and reported it to the appropriate authorities. If you're going to make threats like that, you better be careful, because there's legalities involved. You may think you're protected online, you're not. Anyway, moving on. So much better off said we need a new law. Paternity should be DNA confirmed at birth under law. Let me get your opinion on that. That's a great one. So I have advocated, by the way, for it for 3 decades now, going back to the 90s. I absolutely think it should be mandated by law. Why? Well, the reality is we don't know what the actual number is when it comes to paternity fraud. That's what we're talking about, is paternity fraud. There's guesstimates all over the place. Now, some people will say it's 30%, and they're basing that on the fact that when paternity tests are requested, roughly, it depends on what you look at, 20 to 30% of the time, the named father is not the actual father. So people will say, well, there you go. There's proof that roughly 1/3 or one quarter or 1/5, whatever number you want to use, of all claimed dads are not the dad. It's not that high. I don't believe that. You got to remember, if they are requesting a test, there's a suspicion. So it's going to skew that number higher. That said, I also don't think it's zero or I've seen, oh, it's less than 1%. I don't buy that for a second. I My personal guess, this is a guess, no data, no documentation, no science, is it's somewhere around 10%. Um, and to me, that is a high enough number to justify why it should be done. Especially the other side of this is the legalities of it, right? So, there's all those shows out there. What was it? Maury was one of them. And there was another one I happened to flip on. I don't watch a ton of TV, but I happened to flip on the TV the other morning. It was right after the time change, which don't get me started. The time change I hate. But anyway, because I was so screwed up from it, I was running behind on something. And I was watching, it's one of those court shows. I couldn't even tell you the name of it, right? Judge was funnier than hell, though. And she was handling a case of what was turned out to be paternity fraud. And it, just kind of got me thinking about that particular issue because I do think it's something that it's a high enough instance that if it was mandated, I think it would clarify things. Because you got to remember, using that case, again, it's a TV case. They're taking a big case. By the way, they're not sworn in like a courtroom or any of that. And they're narrowing it down to a 22-minute block because that's how long the shows are. If it's a 30-minute show, you got 8 minutes of commercials, 22-minute block. So they're only hitting the highlights. But essentially, the guy was not the father. He'd been paying support for, I think, 4 years, something like that. And, unfortunately, under real law, it wouldn't matter in most states. He has assumed the role of a parent, so they would continue to charge him child support in many cases. Not always. But based on the facts of this case, I can state for a fact that I am, how am I going to put it? I shouldn't say it that way. I can be reasonably assume that the state of New York, if that's where it was, would have continued to order him to pay because he had assumed the role of a parent, even though he wasn't the biological father. And that's the thing, right? And this is where I want to go with the paternity things. Again, depends on the state. State laws are different. And I'm going to speak to New York, even though I'm not in New York, but I'm very well versed with New York law. Basically, you have unless it's changed, you have 2 years to dispute paternity. So if mom says you're the father, or if you're married, you are presumed to be the father, you only have 2 years to dispute it. And a lot of times guys don't do that, and then they go, I know of many cases where they found out later they were not the father. Too bad, so sad. You're stuck with support. You ain't getting out of it, right? Again, they assume the paternal role. That's why I think it should be the case that it should be confirmed under law. There's no reason not to do it, by the way. What's the negative to it? Mom's going to get found out. Okay, that's on mom. It's not going to hurt the child because I think it benefits the children. Because think about it from a child's perspective. If you grow up thinking this man is your father your whole life, and you found out at 12, 22, 42, this man was not your father, think about the effect that would have on you. And I've talked with men and women that have had that actually happen. It devastates them. Most of the time they say he's still going to be my dad, and they believe that. This is not my words, this is theirs because I've interviewed them. But there's that doubt. And the other side is, now I want to know who my dad is. And if mom is passed on, they're not going to find out. Although DNA testing the way it is now, maybe through, 123andMe or whatever they could, but it benefits the children to know, right? Health issues come into play down the road. I know of a case where a child was having surgery. The child was early teens, like 13, 14, was having surgery. They needed blood. They went to test dad to get the blood because they wanted, and dad wasn't dad. That's how they found out the whole thing. Dad found out at that point and all that. it had an effect because not just the mental side of it, but it affected the kid's health in the sense that he couldn't give blood and he wanted to. So it's just there's no reason not to do it. So anyway, I completely agree with that. So let me kind of catch. I'm kind of going off. Oh, Belfast, North Ireland, Sweden. I love it. Let me know where you're from, and I'll get to my Instagrammers in a moment. As a single bloke in the UK, I asked friends, any singles by you? Most time they answered no. This was Cloud Strife. Yeah, that's an interesting thing that I've been kind of. There's some videos going around on the social medias about, and I'm not talking about the guys walking away. Hell, I've made videos on that, and they are in droves. It's a quick side note. I find it interesting how when I put a video up talking about the guys moving away, it is amazing to me how upset the women get about it. They have to come back at me and go, well, we were moving away first. Okay, who cares? They don't. The ladies don't get. We don't care. It is not a contest to us. If you walk away or we walk away, we win. We get to keep our stuff, basically. It just cracks me up to no end because I see it over and over and over again. It just blows my mind. Did she smile at me? Says cops and judges are the enemy of males in family court. I get your point. I'm going to disagree with you slightly. I'll be honest with you. I've talked to many police officers. Many. They know the reality. I hate to break it to you, kids. They deal with it more than we do, in the sense that cops go through divorce. The divorce rate for police officers is huge. It's 55 in normal. It's probably about 70 for police officers. They get it. More often than not, their hands are tied. All right. Not too long ago, I had Ulysses Slaughter on, who was the guy who did the viral video where the cops showed up to serve him the TRO, temporary restraining order. His was a PFA, protection from abuse, same thing, and he got tossed out of his house by the police. And if you watch that video, it was in mid-August, I think it came out, and I did a video off of it. Look at the body language on those police officers. All right, especially the one. He's like, I do not want to be doing this. I know it's bullshit. I have a friend who's a deputy sheriff. She is the one who does a lot of these because she happens to be a woman, so she goes. When they go to serve them, it's usually they do it in pairs for their own protection. She despises what's going on. Her words, not mine. She knows 90 to 95% of the time those TROs are complete BS. So I don't necessarily throw the cops in there. Judges, there's some not so good judges, and but I'll even defend the judges a little bit. All right, I know it's gonna make some of you mad, but here's the thing: and I have talked off the record with family court judges that are on the bench, and I talked extensively with one who was no longer on the bench. They're in a no-win situation in the sense that no matter what they decide, somebody's going to be mad. They know that, all right? They accept that. It's part of the job. The majority of the time, let's say the kid is 2 years old, they have about a half hour, and that's all it is, majority of the time, to decide the next 16, depending on the state, 16, 18, 20 years of that kid's life. Think about being in that position. It's a no-win situation. I don't know why anyone would want to be a family court judge. You got to be nuts. And I've said that to them, right? If you look at the actual laws, they're completely gender neutral. They really are. How they're applied is different. There are some very bad family court judges. And they are human beings, right? And when you keep that in mind, here's the thing and why things are the way they are. And I've had judges tell me this, right? I've had police officers tell me this. The women's groups are all over them. So if, unfortunately, a husband unalives his wife, they will get dozens, and this is their words, dozens of emails, contacts from women's groups saying, see, this is why we need to protect women and children and all that stuff. They're getting hammered everywhere. They never hear from the men's groups. Never. In fact, I've had a couple of them say, I've never gotten a single thing from a men's group. We don't stand up and speak for ourselves, which is why I do what I do, right? And look at the venom that's directed at me. If you follow me, you know. So again, they're human beings. If you see that over and over again, and you have to live with the fact that you know that if you screw up, if you don't issue a TRO, and that guy goes and unalives his wife, you're going to get dragged through the papers. And yeah, they should have a set of cojones and say, hey, so what, right? I got to follow the law and interpret it that way. But they don't. And I get it. And I'm not defending them. I'm just simply saying this is reality. What needs to be changed is we need to change the whole family court system in the sense that the biggest issue, in my opinion, is that it's adversarial. It's treated like a criminal thing, right? In the sense that, the state has to prove the defendant guilty. The defendant's got to prove himself innocent, and they're fighting constantly, right? That's the benefit, a good thing in criminal court. It is not the way family court should be run. It should be the exact opposite of that, which is why things like shared parenting, where you start in the middle and work out, and every reputable study shows that that's the way to go. But yet, we are where we're at. All right, let me jump over to my Instagrammers. Let me know your comments. If you got questions, you want my opinions on something. No, I'm not going political, by the way. I've seen a couple of those things. Again, a blanket thank you to all of you for saying you like what I do. It does make me feel good. I'm looking through some of the comments, trying to catch up. Ooh, I got from Southeast North Carolina as well. Any advice on how to best support boyfriend going through custody battle? Hasn't seen the kids since June. Ex moved the kids all the way across the country. It's a common question that I get from women. So here's the thing. And I will say, my second wife was really supportive of me with the battles I had with my first wife. Even though we ended up getting divorced, she's an amazing woman. You will never hear me say a negative thing about my second wife, ever. Fantastic woman. My children call her their mom that I had with my first wife. They view her as much their mother as their own mother, okay? The best thing she did to support me, few things. One, when she knew I was struggling, she would just be there. Didn't have to say anything, just be there. See, the thing that women struggle with, and I'm not saying this is a negative, women like to talk things out. They want everybody to come together, kumbaya and all that. This is a classic psychological thing. Women talk face to face. They want to look each other in the face and talk whatever the issues are. That's not how guys operate. We're shoulder to shoulder. You can't force a guy to open up. In fact, the minute you try and do that, he's going to shut down, okay? So what you want to do with your boyfriend is just go to him and go, I'm here. If you need me, I'm here. Get him doing an activity. And I would say this, by the way, if it's a guy, if you're a friend and you're trying to help a guy friend, same thing, right? I'm here, bud. I'm here, bro. What can I do? I'm here if you need to talk. Just do that. That alone can have a dramatic effect. I know ladies struggle to understand that. Well, you're not saying anything to him. You're not doing anything. Doesn't matter. Simply saying to him, I'm here. I care. What can I do? That's it. That alone, he may say, I'm good. And he may not be. I'll be honest with you, all right? But the fact that he knows that you're available to him, that's one thing, all right? It's a game changer because most guys never get that. It's what I do with the guys I coach, right? Says I have guys that are going through a divorce that I coach. They'll come to me. My job isn't to give them legal advice. I'm not a lawyer. I will give them tips and tricks, and I will get them to lawyers, right? But I'm not allowed to give legal advice, nor would I, because it's not appropriate. nor am I a licensed therapist. So if they get to the point where, because I'll coach them, I'll be that sounding board, if you will, whatever. But if I get to the point where I'm like, nope, we're crossing the line, or we're about to, you need to go see a therapist, and I'll help them find one. That's what you need to do, is be that person, that sounding board. Say to him, your case is coming up next week. How can I help you? What do you need? Stuff like that. Let him see. Men think more linear, more logical, right? So in his mind, he's like, all right, I got a case next week. What do I have to do? How do I best prepare myself? That kind of stuff. What you want to do is be that person that he can go to and go, you know what? I got option A, option B. What do you think? Because I don't know what to do. Then he'll open up. Let him come to you that way, but make yourself available. That's the best thing I can tell you. Because that's what my second wife did for me, right? She made sure I knew. Because I remember, I was in court all the time. She made sure I knew that she was always available. If I was working on something, for example, I might be doing a motion to dismiss. I did a lot of my own court stuff, right? She would be that one that would read through it. So, when you're filing your own court papers, if you're going pro se, one of the biggest mistakes non-lawyers do is they talk too much, both in the courtroom and in their filings. Short, sweet bullet points. And she would be the one that she's that separate voice. She was emotionally involved, don't get me wrong, but not as much as I was. So she could give me that opinion and be very blunt about it. And that was awesome that she did that. Things like that. Also, everybody's different. He may need other support, and that's more between you guys. What is it he needs, right? As a person, the things that I shared are the things that I needed. That alone can make all the difference in the world. Because I will tell you, most guys that I talk to that work with me on this stuff, they have no one. No one ever goes to them and goes, "What do you need, bro? What can I do? I'm here. Say whatever you want, and just shut up and listen." Which is no offense, ladies, it's very hard for you to do that. Okay, but anyway, so good question. Hopefully that helped you. I saw Red asked over on, do you read YouTube? Yes, Red, I do. So I got YouTube over here and all them. So I am on YouTube a lot. So both live and that. Just catching up. Again, I'm going to bitch about Instagram, and it's everybody joined. I like see what's nice about TikTok and YouTube is I just get the comments. Hello from Alabama. Happy birthday, Molly. Where is Molly? Where'd she go? There she is. Hold on. Come here, baby. She's like, no, don't do this to me. Everybody say hi to Molly. It's her birthday. She is 7 years old. She's like, stop doing this to me, Dad. She does not care. See? There she is. Look at that face. All right, you can go back there. It's Molly's birthday. She's 7 years old today. She's a full purebred Shih Tzu. She is my little buddy. The love of my life, as I like to say, my little rock star. It's her birthday. She is 7. So for all of you saying happy birthday to Molly, thank you. Or as she would say, woof, right? And yes, she's getting a nice little steak dinner. But anyway. Yep, I got another one. Here we go. We're talking about, being civil and kind after 4 years since we separated. My son's mother still holds this incredible amount of resentment. She claims she doesn't care why all the hate there. That's a good comment that you made. So my first wife and I split in 1995. She's still fighting that divorce. In fact, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine earlier today. It's absurd to me that 27 years later, she still wants to fight the divorce. Let it go. I don't care anymore. I really don't. So anyway, yeah. Thank you. Fanny, you're on. Thank you for the heart and the rose, dear. Doing it myself. Heart me. Thank you. Fanny, congratulations again. I know we chatted offline. Angel Warrior, Marvel or DC, and who is your favorite superhero? I love, Angel, you give me the best questions every week. I don't know the difference between Marvel and DC. Sorry. I have no idea. I don't care. That's it. My favorite superhero. I'm gonna probably say Batman, and when I say Batman, I'm gonna date myself now. I don't mean the current Batmans. I don't even know who it is. I go back to the Adam West Batman. The TV series back in the '60s because I grew up watching that. That's how old I am. So I would say Batman is my favorite superhero. I honestly couldn't tell you what the difference between Marvel and DC is. I don't watch those movies. Here and there I'll watch one that pops up on Netflix or one of them, and I'm bored. I put this on. Um, I saw what was the last one I saw? Iron Man something or other. I don't remember. He was with a couple of the other ones. See, this is how bad I don't know. You can make fun of me. I don't care. But great question. So let me catch up on some other ones. I see there's some comments going. Love your post. Thank you. Explain why males insist on passing laws against females and children. Oh, there's China. They don't. So enough said. I'm not engaging with that person. I don't boot them either. Angel. Ooh, another Angel. You are like a rock star. Have you ever saved someone's life because of your content? Not directly. I have had instances where I've had people reach out to me seeking help, and I've gotten them to appropriate mental health therapists, and they've then in turn saved them. So I don't take credit for that because they did the work, but I indirectly, yes, I have. I've also, because I'm a trainer and strength and conditioning coach and all that, and have been for a while, one of the many things I've done in my life, I have saved someone there. And in fact, in my gym, we literally, this is 6 years ago, we literally had somebody drop dead during a workout. I was not there, but I am, I don't want to take credit for it, but my trainer that was there at the time saved the person's life. So he was working out. He's actually very good friends to this day. Not even a horrible workout. I mean, it was a tough workout, but for my workouts, this one was not horrible, right? He was standing there doing the workout and literally was dead before he hit the floor. He went down. He was dead. Our trainer did CPR on him, and then where my part came in is I had an AED. And this, if I can speak on that for just a moment, if you are a member of a gym anywhere, go see if they have an AED. All right. If they don't, leave that gym. Let me say that again. If they do not have an AED, they don't care about their clients. Leave that gym. An AED costs a brand new one $2,000. You can get a refurbed one for $1,000. I'm not saying it's cheap, but had I not spent $1,800 on what was a brand new one, that person, his name was Bill, would not be alive today because it was the AED that ultimately saved him. The trainer was doing CPR. It would not have. I had multiple doctors because we went to the hospital with him, and I had the fire department say that what saved him was the AED. And in fact, he coded in the ambulance, and they used our AED in the ambulance to bring him back because it was already hooked up. They didn't hook theirs up. So twice that AED brought him back from death. And that's why I am, as someone who has trained trainers and has done, I don't do it much anymore, business coaching for gym owners. In fact, I don't do it at all anymore. I insist any gym should have an AED. I don't care how small you are. I've had gyms. I had a fitness training studio that we had 50 clients. I capped it at 50. I had an AED. All right. So yeah, thank you, Angel, for that question. I love it. So let me cover my YouTubers. Gib Clark, using your stuff to further realize the positives to staying single. I thought I was the odd one. I hear that all the time, my friends. So let me comment on that. All right, because it's open forum. That's why I want to kind of cover some of this stuff. So I am a big believer, by the way, and fan of relationships and marriage. I know it may shock you. Big fan of them. The problem is right now, it is so broken, it is not safe for men right now. It just isn't, right? And which is why I say it this way. If you want to get in a relationship, if you want one, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I will never tell you not to do it, but do it with your eyes wide open. Go into it knowing that, let's say a relationship, you've got less than a 25% chance of that relationship succeeding. A marriage is less than 50-50 now. Latest studies are putting it at 55% of all marriages end up in divorce. As a guy, you need to understand that. You need to know that and then make your decision. The problem I see with guys all the time, and they tell me this, they meet a girl, they fall in love, and 5 weeks later they're marrying her. I'm exaggerating a little, but not always. Minimum a year, I say two, before you do a quote unquote serious relationship, meaning move in together or get married. All right. Um, it's just where we're at right now. It is not safe because the odds of you losing everything are better than you having a great relationship. That's just the reality. And the odds are you're going to lose and lose bad. So that is. Shaggy, yeah, Texas is starting to do a time back program for false allegations. We touch on, Shaggy, I didn't pay you. You're actually promoting my podcast coming up. We do touch on that. So Claudia, who's on the podcast this upcoming Sunday, Claudia Alvias, she's been instrumental in getting some of those laws passed. So that, Shaggy, to your point about the time back program, she is working with the person that is going to do that law, is pushing to get it passed. If you're in Texas, you need to follow this podcast. It comes out Sunday at 11, and then feel free to reach out to her. All her contact info will be in there, because they're looking for support. That is a tremendous thing. I want you to think about it this way. If you are a veteran who's ordered to go overseas, or as I talked with a guy not too long ago, he is on one of the aircraft carriers, okay? He got deployed on the carrier. His wife left him, filed for divorce, all that. Got a default judgment across the board because he couldn't be in family court. He's on an aircraft carrier in the middle of the freaking ocean. He can't go, sorry, I got to leave and go to court. Sometimes they can work around that. But in that case, I mean, his job was, they weren't letting him go, right? So he lost there. So that's one of the things that, Claudia talks about. But then it's also these other things like getting that time back. So he got no visitation. Then when he got home, he wasn't able to get any visitation. And I was talking with her about that, both on and off air. And that law, if passed, would mean that, if he's serving, carriers go out for 6, 8, 10 months, right? Sometimes longer. I mean, with all the crap that's going on right now, they could be deployed for a year before they can get home. He's never going to be able to see his children in that time and fulfill his visitation agreement. These laws would give them protection. Same thing with false allegations. Very, very critical laws, and I do think that they do need to be passed. Craig Kirk said, here in the UK, there's an inquiry into child maintenance services. That's the one I was referring to earlier, right? I'm hearing a lot of stuff coming out of the UK. The UK seems to be kind of like on the ball right now with men's issues. The Minister for Men is a big topic. That inquiry you're talking about, by the way, I love the way you spell inquiry because we spell it with an I, my friend. Child maintenance services and all the stuff they're doing. It's interesting to see how it's all starting to come out. And this is where we as men need to stand up and speak out. That's why I do what I do. You're going to get hell for it. Trust me, I know. There isn't a day goes by I don't get threatened. I don't get insulted. I get all that. I don't care, right? Certain threats I take seriously, but for the most part, I laugh at them more than anything. You're going to get slammed. But the more of us that speak out, the better chance that we as men, wait for it, are going to be heard. And that's the issue across the board. Both, we talked about judges and cops before. They don't hear from guys. If we get out and share our stories, they're going to be more sympathetic for us, right? That kind of stuff. So, all right, let me jump back over to Instagram because I only got a few more minutes with those guys. Tim Bradshaw had my 2-year-old taken away from me, supervised visitation, blocked, stripped of all my rights, and pay child support. 3 kids from prior marriage I am allowed to see. Unfortunately, my friend, first of all, I'm sorry to hear that. It's something I've heard many, many times, right? So, sorry, I need a quick drink. Hey, by the way, quick, if you want merch, go to my bio. There's a link tree in there. You can get the merch. You can get this coffee mug. And yes, I am drinking coffee. But to get back to what he was saying, your situation is not that uncommon. In fact, I hear it quite a bit where guy will get married and divorced, then get remarried and get divorced, have kids with both wives. I was like that, right? I had 4 kids with my first wife, 1 with my second. I never had anything to worry about with that. Not that she didn't try. The first one. But I've seen and heard many times of instances where marriage A or marriage B, there's no problem whatsoever. I've had guys that have gotten had custody of their children, but then the second marriage, or whatever, marriage B, let's call it, she's made allegations and he's not allowed to see his children. Think about the lunacy of that. If he's truly guilty, why does he have custody of his children? Because he's not guilty, right? It's the allegation is enough that he gets denied access to the children, and I can't tell you the number of times I've heard that. It's not as uncommon as you think it is to see that situation, and it's sad. It's ridiculous because who gets hurt in the end? It ain't mom and dad. I mean, they're getting hurt, but it's the children. The children are the ones that get destroyed in those situations. And to be honest with you, it infuriates me from that perspective because anyone that would do that, I hear all the time, from, single mothers. Well, he needs to fight for his children. If you're forcing him to fight for his children, you are the problem, not him. The minute anyone, and if the dad said the same thing, I would slam him just as hard. The minute you say, I want the opposite parent to fight for their children or they should fight for their children, you have made it very clear as far as I'm concerned that you are an alienator. No ifs, no ands, no buts about it. The minute you say it. And frankly, I think that if you're going online and saying it, and there are a lot of videos, he doesn't fight for his children. I would love, you want to change the family court system? There's a first change I would love to see made. You take that video in, you show it to the judge, and judge goes, custody now goes over to him, or the other way if it was the guy doing it. How does that benefit the children? Any parent that is saying he needs to fight for his children, as far as I'm concerned, is an alienator. Period. I know that you're going to quibble with me, some of you, but no. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it to me. Because the fact that you would say that, first of all, and force someone to fight to be in their children's lives, you want it to be adversarial as much as you can, number one. Number two, you're trying to hurt your children. You're using those children as a weapon against him or her, and you're proving you're an unfit parent. I'm very passionate about that, if you can't tell. So, just my 2 cents on that. Again, if you got questions, feel free. I'm just kind of catching up. My Instagrammers, I'm going to lose you in a couple of minutes. So if you have questions, feel free to jump in on that. Gibbs said over there, been there, done that with the kids and grandchildren. They remain. Yeah, I get it. So let me jump back over to my TikTokers. Shaggy said, I've had my kids helping me for years. I'm so sorry to hear that. Again, who's getting hurt there? You are, yes, obviously, right? I'm not trying to dismiss any of what Shaggy's going through. Think about the children in that case. I was that child, okay? My mother did everything she could to destroy my relationship with my father. Now keep in mind, this was in the 60s and early 70s, right? I had my visitation time with my father, parenting time, I hate the term visitation, but I use it, was 12 noon to 6 p.m. Saturdays. That's the only time I got with him. And if he showed up at 12:01, my mother would not let me go. See, he didn't want to see you. And there was one time I heard her, she was out there screaming at him, you were supposed to be here by noon. I'm not letting him go now. You were late. You didn't care enough to show up. knowing that I was hearing this, right? That's how my mother was. If it was 6:01 and I was dropped off, she was doing everything. She'd call the cops on him. That's how insane she was, right? I'm not saying it for sympathy for me. I'm saying it for awareness. This happens all the time, and it needs to stop. I'm going to use this to promote the podcast for Sunday. Claudia's got a solution to it, and she got a law passed in Texas, which now, let me just kind of give you the preview on it. One of the things we talked about. Texas is getting to be on the forefront of things with family law. So in Texas, they needed to get a state law passed that allowed municipalities, so be cities, towns, that kind of thing, to be able to write tickets in custodial interference situations. Think of it like a speeding ticket. She goes into it much better than I am, all right? But imagine a case where, here's what normally happens, right? Dad goes to pick the kids up, because it's primarily dad, and mom says, nope, not letting them go. For whatever reason she's got. Cops get called, police will show up, because they have to, and inevitably they're going to go, no, it's not, we're not going to deal with this, take it back to family court. Now, one, as she talks about in the podcast, that is actually a criminal situation. And she goes into detail, and I'm just going to leave it at that, because you want to watch the podcast to get the information on it. But in order for that to be pursued, they needed to change Texas state law, and she got it changed. It wasn't just her. I'm giving her the credit, but it was the people she worked with as well. So now a municipality, give me a town in Texas, Dallas, right? Let's say Dallas decided they were going to go take that law and say, if it's a situation where the police show up and they suspect the mother is not withholding the child for a valid reason, danger to the child, they can write her a ticket, much like a speeding ticket. She then has to go to court. They could potentially fine her. They may dismiss it. They could do whatever, but at least puts them on notice. Right now, non-custodial parents have no protections. All they're going to hear from a cop is, take it back to family court. And family court aren't going to do shit, right? We all know that. So I do think that's a phenomenal thing to move forward with. So check out the podcast when it comes out Sunday. Angel, can you believe that there are people who still believe Johnny Depp is guilty and believe Amber? I see it every day. Spend 5 minutes on Twitter. I love Twitter, by the way. Love the new Twitter now that Elon's got it. If you are not following me on X, I know it's X, not Twitter, you're missing out on a lot of stuff, because I say things there that I can never say on these channels, all right? And one of the things I've talked about in the past many times, that whole situation with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. It's ridiculous. But it goes to show that when a false allegation is made, no matter what the guy does, he'll never be believed, right? Gib Clark over on YouTube said, do you believe that there can be issues where a parent should be kept away? Absolutely I do. Abuse. Perfect example of one. And I've heard of instances like this. You beat me to it, Gib. Dad shows up drunk. Absolutely, the mother should not let the child go. Wholeheartedly would support that. Under no circumstance. And the reason I know that is because I know of instances where dad did show up drunk. And I slammed them for it, okay? I mean, think about what kind of a parent would do that. Yes, there are instances, alcohol being one of them. Now, does that mean mom gets to declare dad as an alcoholic and never gets to see the kids again? No, that is not what I'm saying. I'm saying in that one instance, right? Now, if dad is an alcoholic or a mom is an alcoholic, then it needs to be looked into. It needs to be investigated and then a decision made. Right now, I know of many instances, where moms are raging alcoholics and still have custody of the kids. I know of instances the other way too, by the way. So, all right. Paul said, UK here falsely accused, arrested, 2 years of harassment and more, in the end, nothing. So I'm assuming that means you got exonerated. How are you now, right? I guess is the question I have for you, because most of the guys I talk to, it's still affecting them. James asked, any advice, as I might be going back to court to fight to see my daughter for the second time? Yes, I do have some advice for you, my friend. In fact, I'm writing a book on it. A couple things I would tell you. And this is a blank. Oh, I'm going to lose my Instagrammers again. So you're going to miss this. Follow me on TikTok or YouTube. You'll get to see the whole thing. So I'm going to give you guys a quick, hang on, I'll be back. Quick shout out to my Instagrammers. I'm here 4 to 5 every Wednesday. Come check it out. Thank you for joining. I apologize I couldn't do more with you, and I apologize we ran out of time. I don't control it. Instagram does. I'll see you guys next week. Thanks for coming. All right. They're going to bounce off now. I hate that Instagram does that. Let me just put my phone aside now. So, all right. To get back to James's question, any advice on going back to court? So this is what I tell guys all the time. This is what I do when I'm coaching them. I don't give legal advice. I give them more personal advice on how to deal with it. One, you need to get your emotions under control. All right. I'm not saying you can't have them. You just need to have them under control. And I don't mean just in the courtroom, although absolutely you do there. What I mean is you've got to kind of separate yourself out. If you're going into court, if you're representing yourself, first of all, which many guys do when they're trying to do this, I would advise you to get a lawyer, by the way. Just let me put that out there. If you're fighting, there's two times I tell guys you need a lawyer. Custody battle, absolutely. Allegations of abuse or false allegations, all right? Do not try and handle either of those yourself. I did not. I handled a ton of my court stuff myself. I put in all the work that I needed to do, hours and hours of research. But I would never go into the custody battle without a lawyer, and I never had to face it. But a false allegation or an allegation of abuse or something along those lines, you need a lawyer. Why? One, it's really hard to separate the emotion from it. I was able to do that, but I still wanted a lawyer. Why? Because all you have to do is miss one thing on a document. I always say you got to make sure your I's are dotted, your T's are crossed, right? You don't cross a T, your case gets tossed. Whereas a lawyer should catch that. They make mistakes too, by the way, all right? But you got your chances are better. Another one, and this is, again, I represented myself in court many times. You may not know when to object. You may allow evidence in that shouldn't be. Now, family court judges are supposed to give a lot of leeway on all that, right? They're lawyers, right? So if, her attorney is presenting something and you're not sure if you should object, I would have objected. And I did several times. And the judge would look at me and go, you got nothing to object about, But I didn't abuse the privilege either. A lot of times I would go, I object, and he would go, why? There's the other reason, right? You can't just say, I object. And he's going to go, okay, well, why are you objecting? Because I had this happen, right? If you're not a lawyer, you may not know that. And I was well versed. You need to get your ducks in a row. So first piece of advice. One, if you're fighting a custody battle, get a lawyer. If you're fighting for visitation, I did most of that myself, if I'm being honest, okay? But you may need a lawyer. If you're not going to use a lawyer, you need to commit to yourself that you're willing to spend, on average, hundreds of hours doing research. And I did, all right? You need to know the law. You need to go into that courtroom and present facts, not emotion. Saying to the judge, I'm a good dad, I should be able to see my daughter, he's going to go, so what? Every dad tells me that. Why are you a good dad? Tell me specifics. What have you done to be a good dad? What is your parenting plan? What are you going to do if you get called into work? What are you going to do if X happens or Y happens or Z happens? What if she gets hurt and you need to take her to the doctor? Do you know who her doctor is? I will be the first to tell you it's ludicrous that men have to do this. Mothers don't. But if you don't have all of your ducks in a row and be prepared for that, they may not ask you. But I was there. I mean, the judge said to me, well, what happens if she gets sick? Well, then I'm going to take her to see doctor. I forget who his name was. I should know, right? And I'll make an appointment and go take her. What's the problem? I used to do it when we were together. Takes that away. But you will see things like that in family court as a man, as a dad, all right? We have to prove that we can parent. Mothers are automatically assumed they can. It's ridiculous. I'd be the first to tell you that. But those are the two biggest pieces of advices I give you. One, you've got to get your emotion out of it. And two, you've got to be succinct Bullet points. Think bullet points. You're presenting your case in. You got 15 minutes. Figure it. I always tell guys they think they're going to have a 4-hour trial. Those happen very, very infrequently. I would assume you'd have 15 minutes. You might get up to half an hour. Um, I was in court pretty much every month for 10 years. I think the longest we were ever actually in court, probably 45 minutes. Other than the trial, which my attorney handles, right? On average, 10, 15 minutes most. So I always tell people plan for 15 minutes. You have 15 minutes to present your case. And by the way, they are going to present theirs in that same 15. So it means you got about 7 minutes. Bullet points, facts. That's what you need to do, my friend. Hopefully that helps you. So going back, a couple of people, Shaggy was saying there's absolutely no damage caused by requiring DNA. I agree. And here's the thing with DNA too. The reason guys don't ask for it is it's going to piss mom off the minute you say, I want a DNA test, right? Kid's born, I want a DNA test. Oh, you know, it's not, you're going to get slammed. Let's be honest, right? Especially if she knows it's not your kid. Oh, they're going to fight it tooth and nail, right? If it's a law, that takes that away. It takes the risk away from the relationship. Because there are guys that say, I want one, and then found out they're the dad, and it's fractured the relationship forever. Make it a law, problem solved. Okay, Craig said, no official news about false allegations, but muted the reverse charges to accusers. Yeah, see, there's a lot going on in there. Thinker said, do you know much info about Canada? I know it sucks. I don't know specifics on Canada. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm assuming you're talking about family law. I know it's as bad as the States and the UK and Australia and New Zealand. One thing, guys, I know we all think our place in the States, it's our state. In the world, it's our country is the worst. They're all essentially bad. They're all the same. There's no one that's better or worse than the other, as my opinion in general. By the way, thank you, Endon Asian for the roses and Mel DV Survivor for the tiny diny. I love those tiny dinies. So to answer your question, Thinker, I don't know a lot about Canada, but if you have a specific question, throw it out because there's people in the group from Canada. They might be able to help you. Let me caught up over there. Sorry, I'm jumping between all these things. Ooh, this might be a good one. Hold on. I got to scroll back because the TikTok just jumped forward on me. Hang on. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just kind of going through it here. There it is. See, the problem is, like, TikTok will be fine, and then all of a sudden it'll throw you all the way to the end, and you miss all these things out. And it really jumped me forward. I knew I was like 100 behind. I'm trying to get caught up. All right, here we go. Bixovan, love your videos. Spot on. Thank you. Bronx Italian dude, I get it. Albany Italian dude. Formerly. I escaped New York. And will never go back. I love this from Craig Kirk. We're waking up to our value now. Walking away protects our finances mentally and physically. Amen, brother. Right? So, if I may pontificate again about this. So, talk about it all the time. One of the things that I'm excited to see is that men are starting to value themselves. It's freaking the women out, by the way, right? That I always call it the Titanic syndrome. You know, women and children first. We've lived like that for eons. And I get it, right? We're biologically programmed to be that way. Men are the protectors and all that. Things have changed. You know, what was 200-300 years ago, 2,000-3,000 years ago is not the same in 2023, right? I would ask anyone who says, well, we need to protect women and only women, like the feminists, right? Well, what about the men? Why don't they matter? Because they're still stuck in that prior mentality, women and children first, right? Why aren't men of value? Oh, you want to set a feminist off, throw that one at them. Well, why aren't men of value? Why don't they matter? And they'll throw like, oh, they've had the advantage of the patriarchy and all this for hundreds of years and blah, blah. No, it's irrelevant. I had no control over what happened in 17 whatever, right? Right now, why don't you value men? Why don't you think they bring something to society? and just sit back and listen to what they say. It's hilarious, actually. But it's nice to see men are waking up, to use your word, Craig, and seeing our value. We are every bit as valuable as women. Absolutely. I mean, I would say children are. We should always put children first. I just who I believe. But if I were on the Titanic now and they were filling the lifeboats, I'd be going, why is my life worth less than hers? Because the mentality came out of, you needed to protect women because they can only have one baby a year. So for the species to continue on, a man can impregnate 100 women in one night, right? Yeah, he can. Women can only get pregnant once, right? So that was the reason to it. There are 8 billion people on the planet. We're not going to die out all of a sudden if men start getting saved instead of women. Not going to happen. As birth rates plummet, I know. But my argument is that whole mentality, okay, if we're going to update how society views women and give them rights, as they deserve, by the way, then we should be doing the same for men. And same, it's the same argument I would make for the draft registration. We talked about that last week and all that. Pronouns are dad or daddy. Most every judge was a dirty lawyer. I'm not going to disagree. It's not true, but there are some very good judges. It was funny because the municipal elections. Did you go vote, by the way? If you didn't, I don't like you anymore. Just saying. So, if I may digress briefly, but you'll see where I'm going to go with that comment in a minute. The municipal elections are your local elections. In my town, it was the mayor, the city council, and all them. Those are the most important elections in your life. Not the presidential, not the Senate, not Congress, not your state legislature, your local. So in my town, we have a mayor who, let's just say, is out for himself. And now he's gotten reinforced on the city council. And they are systematically destroying our town because building is out of control. All right, where I live, there's not a lot of space left. They're going to bulldoze every single tree to put up condos and stuff because people want to move here, right? That election is far more important than whoever becomes president next year because it's not going to affect you. You need to vote, and if you didn't vote yesterday, you missed out on an opportunity to save yourself. The municipal elections, on average, less than 15% of eligible voters vote. I should have done this last week, right? And that's the numbers that I'm seeing. Wasn't even that high for yesterday because I'm in tune with the politics. So anyway, to get to your point, family court judges, not everywhere, but in many states, are elected. And a lot of them were running because this is municipal. It's a municipal election in many cases, or it falls under that. So where I'm from in New York originally, judges were elected for 10-year term, but guys wouldn't go vote. And I'm like, well, why are you bitching about the judge? He got elected. Well, my vote wouldn't have mattered. Well, no, your one vote might not have, but if 3,000 guys, 300 guys had gone and voted, that judge wouldn't be there. So it's on us. But to your point, I don't agree with you that every judge was a dirty lawyer, but a lot of them were. Tired man, women's divorce trump card. He beat me, the kids, and the silver bullet. We've talked about that many times, and somebody just said that too. Big Al's given always record, keep detailed notes when a male going through divorce. I've talked about that myself many times. So I'm working on a book. I talked about it last week, which is the layman's guide to family court. What guys need to do, not from a legal perspective, because I'm not a lawyer, nor do I pretend to be one on TV. But I wanted to do a book that was not by a lawyer, telling guys what they need to do to prepare themselves. Because the lawyers get into the legalities too much, right? Which is good. I'm not saying it's bad, but things like how to dress, things like, what I talked about earlier, getting your emotions in check, how to keep yourself sane, that kind of stuff. That's the book I'm working on, and I'm 90 to 95% done with it. Then I got to send it off to editing. I'm hoping to get it out by the beginning of the year. And it's something I hope guys read, not that are going through divorce, but guys that are married. Because the number one thing guys say to me when they come to me looking for coaching is, my wife just filed for divorce. I had no idea it was going to happen. I hear it every day. There isn't a day goes by I don't hear it. And I talk about that in the book. So, but what he's, Big Al saying is right. Record, record, record. Keep detailed notes. Doing it myself. Notes are hearsay until introduced as evidence. You don't want them to be introduced as, that's not true. It is, but it's not. So what, and I'll give you perspective on that, because I get what you're saying, right? But I had my detailed notes. I was called to testify, right? I was put on the stand, and I said, Your Honor, or I said it to my lawyer, can I get my notes? And the opposing attorney was going apoplectic. I love that word, by the way. You hear me use it in videos. Well, he can't have his notes. And the judge is like, well, why? And long story short, they went back and forth. They did their little sidebar thing, comes back. I got my notes. So I'm sitting on the stand, and my attorney's asking me things. And I'm like, 1 second. And I would turn them the page in my notes, and I would go, on January 6th, I arrived at such and such a time. This was the situation, blah, blah, blah. Details, very detailed, right? Then her attorney would come at me. Well, you said blah, blah, blah. Hold on, let me check my notes. Well, this is what I said. Here's what I have in my note. My credibility to the judge went through the roof, right? Because I had these notes. You don't lie in the notes. You put the facts, not emotion. Then it becomes evidence to your point, right? You can't just hand the judge notes. That is hearsay. You're right. And the judge isn't even going to read them. But that's how they benefit you. And when you're going to fill out your paperwork, a motion to whatever, right? You have your notes. There's your bullet points. I used to just take them. Boom, boom, boom. This is what happened. This date. This is what I'm looking for. Remedy, motion. That's basically what it was. Those notes make all the difference in the world. All the difference. Craig asks, how do we organize to make a difference? Meaning, speaking of differences, I'm assuming you're meaning dads, fathers, men. We're trying, right? So if you go up in my bio, there's the link tree. Down below is the people that I've partnered with. I don't belong to any one organization. Not that I don't like those organizations, and I will be working with them, but I'm not going to join any one particular organization. I view myself as somebody kind of mentioned earlier, the face, so to speak. And I'm not doing it for ego or any of that. I'm doing it so I take the bullets, right? There are some fantastic organizations out there. The way for us to organize, we need to have that one or two big ones. Where the problem with the men versus the women's groups, you think back 50 years ago, who was the women's groups? Was there a bunch of them? Yes, there was. But I guarantee you all will come up with the same name if you think about it. The National Organization of Women, now, Gloria Steinem's group, right? One group speaking. There were many, 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 many subgroups. There still are. But now was the voice. There is no National Organization of Men. There's a bunch of fractured ones out there. We need to coalesce under one. Doesn't mean we can't have different things, right? Different areas to focus on. And that's one of the things I'm doing behind the scenes, is trying to get these groups to coalesce a little bit. That's why I'm not joining any one group also, right? Is I want them to all come under an umbrella. And it's not going to be my group. I'm not creating a group, all right? I'm me. But that's how we're going to make a change. That said, you can do things on your own. Things that I've done that have had tremendous effect. Again, Claudia, forget me. Claudia, by herself pretty much, with some help, but the main driver for changing Texas law. And go watch the podcast if you want to hear about it, because I don't have much time on here left. Go watch that podcast. One person made a difference. Things like lobbying. Go to your state capital. Meet with representatives. Meet with your local representatives of every level. Pick up the damn phone. Nobody's in session right now for the state. I don't know of any states that have their legislature in session, which means your local reps are in your area. Pick up the phone, call them, and say, I want to meet with you to discuss shared parenting, child support, whatever it is you want to talk about. Same as you when you go into a courtroom. You go in, you facts, not emotion. Now, one caveat: tell your story. Just don't trash your ex, but say you're a dad. You want to be active in your children. You're fighting tooth and nail. It's cost. I saw somebody mention a little while ago, $90,000 spent. My case was about the same. That's money taken away from my children's college. The laws need to change. What can we do? And you don't want to view them as an adversary. Too many guys go and meet with these representatives and want to fight with them. It is not going to get you anywhere. That's what's cost us. Is there's these guys out there that are angry, and I get that they're angry. They're pissed off, and they want to go to war. You're not going to win. Just telling you right now. I've seen it for 20 years now. Hasn't been a single guy that succeeded doing that, or group. There's many groups out there that did it, right? We're up against the wall as it is. Go in and tell your story. Tell your story. It's why I do what I do. I don't need to be doing this anymore. I could retire, go play golf every day. I live near a beach, hang on the beach every day. I'm here doing this because it's that important. I share my stories. I talk about what I go through, and I try and help share others' stories. That's why the podcast exists, is to share those stories. So, Craig, to you, I would say there's a good starting point. Write letters to the editor. Nobody uses a newspaper anymore, but back in the day, I wrote hundreds of letters to the editor. Get them in there. Speak in front of groups. Talk to a church group. I go in front of groups and I talk about what men go through. Again, share the stories. Don't try and attack anyone, right? Especially your ex or any of that. But say, go in, meet with, I'm here. I want to talk to you about what men go through as divorced dads and struggle to stay in part of their children's lives. Stuff like that. That's how you get change. I love this. I got to catch up on my thing. I got about 8 minutes. My neighbor has a dog named Tony. Do you think that's a weird name for a dog? No, I don't. My dog, and it's her birthday. Where is she? Ooh. Oh, she's under my feet. I'm not going to drag her out of her bed. My dog's name is Molly. Love my little Molly. I have another dog, Maggie. She's out in the front right now. There's that argument that you don't give dogs people names, so to speak, but I don't have a problem with it. One of my clients, her dog's name is Kevin, which I think is cool. Kevin's an awesome dog. So no, I don't, to me, Bowser is a weird name, there's dating myself. Whatever works for the dog, man. My rule of thumb with my dogs, you're going to laugh, is all of my dogs, for as long as I can remember, with the exception of one, their names have started with an M. Actually, two. There was a rescue that I had 25 years ago. Her name was Shadow. We got her at 2 years old. Obviously, I wasn't changing her name. That was one of the best dogs I've ever had. And then I rescue dogs. So Molly's a rescue. Maggie is not. But Molly, we rescued from a neighbor they were a couple. They were splitting up. She was a whack job. She was a whack job. And I mean, whack job. She didn't want the dog. He couldn't take the dog where he was going. So we took Molly, and she's my little angel right now. So there is no such thing as weird names. Murph, thank you for the rose. Craig, thank you for the rose. Hold on, I know there's one I'm looking for, and I missed it. Hang on, bear with me, guys. Every once in a while, TikTok jumps forward on me. Sorry, I'm scrolling through. Charlene, I love this comment. I'm glad I found it. I hate when two couples blame each other for the children they created together instead of co-parenting. Thank you for that. Amen. People talk about things like mediation, co-therapy. I don't like that term, but I heard it recently. I'm like, co-therapy, what the fuck is that? It's where they go in post-separation, not to fix their relationship, but to make sure they can co-parent. I hate the name, but I love the idea, right? Couldn't agree more with you, Charlene, right? This is what needs to be done. is we again it goes back to what I said earlier. We need to take the adversarial out of family court because when you have an adversarial situation, somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose. In criminal court, that's what we want. In family court, it's the exact opposite of what we want. We want no one to lose because the ones who lose every single time right now, not mom and dad, the kids, right? So that's why I say, and I know you're probably commenting on some of the things that I've been talking about, is you don't want conflict. Is there going to be conflict from time to time? Sure. All right. Fully agree with that. But I've talked about it before. When I separated from my second wife, we did our whole thing by ourselves. We never set a foot in a courtroom. To this day, we've never set foot in it. We put our daughter first, right? First and foremost. And to this day, we still do. And she, it's tough enough for a kid as it is, but she's better off because of it. If you truly care about your kids, whether you're mom or dad, and I get there's conflict, don't get me wrong, I get it. You need to do everything you can to put the children first. That's the way it is, all right? Canadian guy, when are courts going to hold women accountable, not only in family court, but criminal courts, when hell freezes over? Sorry, sarcasm, I had to do it. I will tell you, I'm starting to see it more and more. I think things are changing. Slower than a snail dragging an anchor through peanut butter. But I am starting to see some changes. Where am I seeing them? We talked about the false allegations. UK, I'm starting to see women get charged. I haven't seen it too much in the States yet, but I have seen some cases. You're starting to see more and more of the teachers, the female teachers that are assaulting teenage boys, they're getting charged. The fact that they're even getting to that point is a huge step forward. Is it enough? Not even close. It is happening. I do think you're seeing it in family courts also. Think back to the 80s and 90s. Mom got custody, period. That still happens. But you're starting to see more and more where dads are getting custody or equal custody. It's changing. States are changing laws. Florida just passed. Missouri, there's a few of them now. Things are changing. So I do think it's happening. All right, I only have a couple more minutes. So London Drinker, is this a YouTube stream? Yes, I am live on YouTube also. Men need to be heard. Say hi, Molly. It's her birthday. Where'd she go? Let me go on this side. Say hi, Molly. It's Molly's birthday, so we're celebrating Molly's birthday here. 7 years old today. All right, so I just want to kind of wrap things down. Sorry, reticent. You look great, brother. I am as skinny as a twig. Being a skinny man is the worst, just saying. I have clients that I work with that are trying to lose weight that would hate you. But thank you for that. One piece of advice I would give you as you get older is keep working out, keep moving. Find something you enjoy doing. For me, it's powerlifting, weightlifting. Love it. Bike riding I like to do. I like to go for walks. Whatever it is you like, go do it. Don't do it, by the way, for appearance. Because if you've ever gone on a diet and gone off of it, that tells you what I mean, right? It can motivate some people. I want to look skinny, to use your thing. That motivation goes in and out. And this is the trainer in me talking. Find something you love doing and use that as your motivation. I get to go to the gym and work out 5 times a week. That's freaking awesome. And it's why I do what I do. All right. So anyway, I'm going to wrap things up because I know I'm a little behind on things, but a couple of quick notes. As I said earlier and a couple times, I'm here every Wednesday from 4 to 5:30. Sometimes I do open forums like we did today, and we just talk about whatever. Podcast goes up every Sunday. Next podcast coming up this Sunday is with Claudia Vallis from Texas, who got some laws passed in Texas. She runs Heroes for Children's Rights, an organization. You can Google it, Heroes for Children's Rights. But she's an advocate and did a lot of lobbying She talks about that process, how she learned it. For those of you, a couple of you mentioned, how do I do things? How do I change things? Go watch that podcast. She gives, I actually said it during the podcast that she was giving a master class on how to lobby. It was great. Um, Check that out. Like I said earlier, I have some other podcasts coming up. There will be a couple weeks here and there where I don't release one. Like I probably won't release one Thanksgiving weekend or around Christmas. I'm going to take some time off. Um, but generally, podcast goes up every Sunday at 11. I'm live every week. There will be an exception. The day before Thanksgiving, I will not be live. That's family time. But I may do it on Tuesday instead. And I love to hear from you guys. If you need to reach me, your best, if you've got something like you want me to, a guest for the podcast or something like that, you need to email me, menneedtobeheard@gmail.com. If you DM me on YouTube or TikTok, I get literally thousands a day. I can't possibly read them all. And I apologize for that. But I'm just little old me doing everything. I have no assistance whatsoever. So it's impossible for me to answer all of them. I wish to God I could. I feel horrible that I can't. It's just not realistic. But come join me every week. And, I truly appreciate all of you. Thanks to those that sent the various gifts, the Dinees, the roses. If I didn't thank you, I apologize, but thank you to all of you. For my people that subscribe, I truly appreciate your support. This costs me some money to do all this stuff. And I appreciate that some of you help me out. If you're interested in that, you can subscribe on YouTube. I have what's known as I have the Brotherhood of Men. It's membership on YouTube. You can join it on Instagram. You can join it on Patreon. And I do videos that aren't shown anywhere else. And I answer questions and I talk about things in depth. This week or a couple weeks ago, I talked about friendships and why they're so important and how to get them for guys. I take what they want me to talk about and I share my wisdom. So if you want access to those, it's only $5 a month, guys, right? And you're helping to support the channel. All right, on that note, I am going to wrap things up because I do have other things to do. I truly appreciate all of you watching, and I'll see you next week.